So this past spring, I was asked to test this product, Vitalise, with our lambing ewes. This is a calcium, magnesium and phosphorus supplement that was originally developed for dairy cows, so it is ideally suited for lactating animals. We tested this in two ways. I gave it to my main flock of ewes, and we also had a controlled trial where we had 40 ewes who were receiving Vitalise and 40 ewes who were not, who were the control group. The ewes took the product very readily. It didn't take any adjustment. They immediately recognised what it was and they ate it very happily. When I first gave it to them a month prior to lambing, I was just starting to get metabolic problems in the ewes. A few of them were just starting to go down. And there was one ewe in particular who went down the day that I put this out. I gave her ketol and she didn't respond. So the next day I gave her subcutaneous CalMag and she responded to that and made a full recovery. So she definitely had a calcium deficiency. From the day that I gave this product to the ewes, I had no further cases all the way till lambing. And that was a dramatic result because I've always had cases of sleepy sickness, hypercalcemia on this farm. For the control trial, we selected 80 twin-bearing ewes. And we chose these ewes from the lighter ewes in the flock because we're looking at a product that should be able to help with metabolic problems. We wanted to be working with ewes who might actually have metabolic problems, so we'd be more likely to see if the product could help. So there were two groups of 40 ewes, and the ewes in each group had an average weight of 59 kilograms at the start of the trial. By tailing, the ewes in the control group that were not receiving Vitalise had an average weight of 60 kilograms, and the ewes that were receiving Vitalise had an average weight of 61 kilograms. So there was already quite a difference in weight, but it wasn't statistically significant yet. But at weaning, the mean weight of the ewes was 62 kilograms in the control group and 66.7 kilograms in the Vitalise group. The control ewes had put on 3.1 kilograms over lactation, and the Vitalise ewes had put on 7.9 kilograms, almost 5 kilograms more than the control ewes. This was a dramatic difference. They were in much better order. But what was rather peculiar was that did not translate into a difference in lamb weights. The weaning weights of the lambs from both the control and the Vitalise group were essentially identical. So both the ewes receiving Vitalise and the ewes that hadn't had put everything they had into producing milk for those lambs and had grown those lambs at an equivalent rate. But the control ewes had sourced those nutrients off their own backs, while the Vitalise ewes had had access to the supplement, so they had been able to grow. The ewes receiving Vitalise were also healthier. As you were shifting them, you'd notice it. So when you're bringing in ewes to the yard, sometimes you get the odd ewe that stays behind and wants to hide in a gorse bush. I had that on occasion in the control ewes. I did not have that in the Vitalise ewes. There were two ewes in particular in the control group that at various times when I was shifting them to and from the yards, each of them lay down and tried to hide in some scrub. Both of them I removed from the trial, treated with CalMag, and one of them recovered and one of them died. But I didn't have that problem in the Vitalise group at all. Also, when shifting them, the Vitalise animals sometimes just seemed to be running faster and healthier. They'd go through the gateway, they'd be playing and jumping, and the control ewes just weren't doing that as much. So there was definitely an improvement in animal health, and there was a clear improvement in weight gain. At tailing, we chose 5 ewes from each treatment, took blood samples from them, and tested them for calcium, magnesium and phosphorus. There was a clear increase in magnesium concentration in the blood in the ewes receiving Vitalise. At the end of the trial, I kept both groups in the yards for a day, and I gave both of them Vitalise. The ewes that had been receiving Vitalise through the trial didn't touch it. The control ewes immediately recognised it as something they needed and ate quite a large quantity just over the first night. So at weaning, we took all the lambs from these ewes and we split them into 4 groups. Lambs that had never received Vitalise, lambs that received Vitalise while on mum but not afterwards, lambs that did not receive Vitalise on mum but did receive it afterwards, and lambs that received Vitalise through their whole lives. There was no effect on lamb growth. So what do we conclude from this? This is a very useful product for ewes over late pregnancy and lactation. It dramatically reduced metabolic problems. It will have saved multiple deaths, but that is hard to quantify. It certainly increases the weight gain of ewes over the period of lactation. In doing this, by leaving ewes in a better condition at the end of lactation, it should mean that they are in a better condition when it comes to the next mating and should ultimately improve lambing percent, but this trial didn't go long enough to determine that. So how much did they consume? Well, in the trial, over the whole period from a month prior to lambing through to weaning, each ewe consumed about 400 grams of product. So that is total usage, both consumption and wastage, but there wasn't much wastage. So you could budget on 0.5 kilogram per ewe over the spring. Now if that 0.5 kilogram of Vitalise can result in a 5 kilogram increase in ewe live weight at weaning, just if you were selling those ewes as cull ewes, that's about a $10 gain. In reality, if you're keeping those ewes and they're now in a better condition for mating and they end up with more lambs, it's going to be more profitable than that. So the economics of it stack up very well. And that's not even taking into account a reduction in ewe deaths over spring. We didn't specifically trial it on beef cattle. I gave it to cows from calving, and initially they didn't show a great deal of interest in it, but later on in lactation they consumed it readily. But young growing cattle very readily consumed it, so it may be of use for them as well, but we didn't test that. So what about the practicality of using it? How do you actually do it? Well, the difficulty with this product is that it breaks down very easily. So it's a pelletized lime product, but these pellets are very fragile. So just with a little bit of nosing around in a container, they'll break down to a powder quite quickly, and the tiniest bit of water on them and they disintegrate. So it's not a product that you can put a large quantity out in a paddock and leave it for a week, because it will start to absorb moisture from drizzle and dew, and it will disintegrate. You can't feed it from a hopper because the water would just track up the inside, turn it into a mush, and just gum the whole thing up. The animals readily consume it in its granules. As soon as it gets wet, it disintegrates and turns into a mush, like a thick whitewash, and they also will readily consume that if they're feeling a need for it. But then it dries out into hard lumps and they won't eat that. So I've found the most practical way to feed it to them is just to use a half a drench container, give them an amount that they'll consume in a couple of days, and no more than that. The other thing about it is that when you first give it to them, they will consume it very readily, and they'll consume quite a lot every day. But if you keep giving it to them every single day, once they are satisfied and no longer feel a deficiency, they will appear to hardly touch it. And so the products that you're putting out will continually be turning wet and then going dry, and you'll keep wasting it and tipping it out. And you'll feel like you're wasting your time. So what I would do, what I found most practical, is to give it to them for a few days. They'll eat it all, top it up, they'll eat it all again, top it up again, they'll eat some of it. And once they stop seeming to be interested in it, take it away. Give it back to them in a fortnight or so. That way, you'll actually keep using it. My concern is that if you try and do it every single day, then you might end up giving up on the product and not giving it to them at all. Better to have a system that you're actually going to do. So in conclusion, I'm very impressed with this product. I think it made a major difference to my ewes this spring, and the trial results bear that out. I observed clear reductions in metabolic problems. We measured an improvement in magnesium content in blood, and we had dramatically higher weight gain for the ewes that were receiving Vitalise than the ewes that weren't. This is a product that I am incorporating into my own management and will be using every year.